So maybe Gabe, share with us a little bit your background and your background in construction. Then we'll transition into like how you transition to a tech company. That'll be fascinating.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a good question. I get asked a lot, how did you end up in tech coming from construction?
Yes.
And I can tell you that was not the path I was headed down. I didn't even own a laptop 5 years ago. So it's pretty interesting. I'm a grassroots construction guy. I started with a hammer and a shovel in my hand.
Yes.
Actually working in Vancouver on high-rise construction.
Cool.
A local company, Cressy Developments. And I worked my way up from there. Started to become a carpenter apprenticeship, and then I actually started to work with a subcontractor of Cressy, and focused on window installation in high rises.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So talk about high risk.
Yes.
I was also scared of heights.
Wow.
So it was a big transition, and from there I worked my way up in that company over 10 years to a partnership role with them, and running the Western Canadian division. We had about 100 employees, and between Alberta and British Columbia.
At a young age.
At a young age.
Yes.
I was very fortunate. I started working there when I was 22, and the owner had started it 30 years. It took him to get to where he was.
Yes.
And he was amazing. He just let me grow.
So was he kind of like your mentor in some way?
In many ways, absolutely.
Yes,
yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. He taught me a lot and also let me learn, which I think is huge. You got to let people learn. It's not always the micromanagement, and I think that was awesome for my career and allow me to work through the fear of trying new things and taking it like
And then you kind of transition to a leadership position where you're managing a pretty big team of people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I started a little bit into the leadership role when I was about 23 years old.
Wow.
24, and then worked my way up. The last 6 years of that career was running that Western.
But he must see something in you that like, hey, he's a young guy that's ambitious, that's hardworking, right?
Yeah, we met actually on a project for Cressy where they had the company that they were working for, there were some deficiencies, we call it, on site that they had to repair. And I was always staying late and working and helping them, and that's, I guess, I caught his eye.
Yes.
And then from there...
what are some of the key things you've learned from him, like during that period of time, business-wise?
The biggest thing is to not sweat I wouldn't say it's the small stuff, but to prioritize the things that you need to worry about. So I used to, when I was really young, everything that came across my plate had to be done right away, had to be in the trenches, get it done. If somebody that was working with me couldn't do it, I'd go do it myself. And I was literally driving around Vancouver like a chicken with my head cut off, just going from one place to the other. Putting out fires, but also I had trouble transitioning from, like I said, grassroots construction, shovel and a hammer, working physically. Transitioning from working physically to management was hard because I felt like I wasn't working naturally unless I was physically working.
Yes.
And then I learned, probably it took me till my mid-20s to realize, no, if I'm physically working, I'm taking away from that management role and the vision and the ability to clear the path for the workers. And then I had another transition when I started Salus, but that's later down the path.
And did you come up with the idea because you saw an opportunity or something that's a need that's not being fulfilled? Like how did you go from that to that?
Yeah, so like I said, my journey was to take over or be deeper partners in that business.
Yes.
I didn't have an understanding of software, to be honest. Our tech stack, which I learned in the last 5 years what that even meant, was emails, and we got Dropbox the last 2 years that I was working there.
Wow.
We had flip phones 5 years ago, the tough phones, the mic phones, where you could drop it from the 10th floor into concrete and chip it up and it would still work. But yeah, the catalyst for the change was something that happened in the industry. So we see it now more in society. Safety is more at the forefront. It's more present because of COVID and everything else. But 7 years ago was the transition in my world, in construction, where it turned from safety being protective equipment, hard hat, steel-toe boots, to changing to what we call field level compliance, which is actually proving that you have a safety program and process. You have a safety manual that outlines all the safe ways to do your task. And then from there, having to prove that you're doing it by documenting, filling out forms. So that not only does it protect the worker by making them stop and think, but it also protects the business.
Yes.
If something happens in the future.
Liability and
everything.
Else. Yep.